In today's session, we do have Miss Diana Contreras from Dollar General. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Miss Contreras. She was born in Seoul, South Korea. Her father was in the military, and yet the majority of her time she spent growing up was in East Texas. Ms. Contreras got into the supply chain industry while putting herself through college. That is when she realized that she enjoyed the industry very much and decided to make it her career for now 30 years. She has worked for several companies such as Hewlett Packard as the first general manager of operations for 12 years. She also worked at Walmart, KLM Investments, where she was manager of 18 companies. And now she's been with Dollar General for 9 years. And you're already getting some accolades in the chat. At Dollar General, she has broken several glass ceilings as the first female director of distribution, and with her current role as the first female senior director of distribution operations. Ms. Contreras holds an Associate's of Applied Science in Legal Studies, a Bachelor's of Arts in Supply Chain, and a Master of Arts in Organizational Management with a specialization in Global Supply Chain. Ms. Contreras is a corporate speaker and has done several speaking engagements. She belongs to the Women's Professional Network and serves as a subject matter expert for transportation, logistics, and distribution for the Texas Workforce Commission. What many of you may not know is that Ms. Contreras was also a major contributor to the Texas Standards 2.0, where she served as a subject matter expert and representative for content standard overlay with TWC and Texas A&M, which is us, folks. So we are a great big fan of Ms. Contreras. And apart from her work background, Ms. Contreras is greatly involved in her community as well, just as I mentioned with the work that she's done for our great AEL providers. She has also received recognition for her work, such as receiving the Bravo Zulu Award for serving on a retention task force in 2017. She was also awarded the Outstanding Dollar General Director Trust 2018. She was awarded the Key to Dollar General for serving others and teamwork in 2018. She Moves the World Award in 2018, Making a Difference Award in 2018, the Recognition Award for Precinct 1 in the Constable's Office for serving our community in 2018, and most recently, the Essential Hero Award in 2020. So ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Ms. Diana Contreras in our presentation for today.
Okay, well, everyone, thank you so much for having me today and allowing me to come into your homes and your businesses. I will try to make this as interesting as possible, but thank you for having me. And the topic we're going to talk about today is something that has impacted me as an employer. And I was really excited when T-Call called me and said, hey, would you do this little lunch and learn with us in this presentation to talk about this topic? Because I think after speaking with Ms. Liz Moya and Anne Marie, there's a big disconnect there, and we need to get our educational partners in there along with our statutory agencies to see how we can help this. But our topic is internships with internationally trained individuals with post-secondary educations, and how do we help? How as an employer do we help our educators, and how as an employer do we help our community be better at serving this particular group of individuals? And what we're seeing is what we learned as an employer, or there's some foundational questions here. Why are there so many internationally trained professionals with secondary educations that are either underemployed or unemployed? How do we accommodate the situation on all fronts, and who needs to be involved, and what are our next steps? And this is the presentation that we did with AEL not too long ago, and it really stood out because I was thinking, who do I get a hold of to help me with this? Because in the last several years, I love internationally trained individuals with our normal individuals, and they want to learn so much and they're hungry, but after a certain period of time, I have to let them go, and it's usually a year and a half to 2 years, and I couldn't figure out why is this happening to me. So after doing a little bit of research, what we found out along with this is that there is a little bit of a technical legal clause in there that kind of stops the employer from hiring people long term. And on the education side, I don't know if our educators are aware that this is going on. So from an education standpoint, think about it. Any university, let's take A&M for example. Here you go out and you bring an advertisement that says, hey, we want our internationally trained individuals to come in and learn and get a degree with A&M. We can help with employers, we can do all of this, but then they come on and get on with us, and then we give them a job, and in 2 years something happens and they have to go home. Well, it's only going to become a word of mouth in a little bit that says, hey, you know, they're pretty good at getting the degree and getting into the door, but there's no retention there. So that is kind of the situation that myself and other peer employers are running into. So what we found out with this little slide here is this particular topic was, I was reading a topic and it said basically in a nutshell, do employers need to require post-secondary educations because there's a huge gap? And my answer is yes. Education is so important, and our universities do such an outstanding job of hitting everyone. So why is there such a big gap? But it also made me look at, wait a minute, this could be part of why there's a gap with internationally trained individuals and what's going on with them. And it was just interesting to look at the numbers because they're very specialized, especially when you get people that come from other countries. They want manufacturing, retail, medical, those type of industries that they believe will pay well and give them a foundational that they can take back and use globally. But there's a little bit of a disconnect there. So what seems to be the problem? So why are internationally trained individuals underemployed with secondary degrees? Number one, I don't think employers and educators really know what are the restraints of companies legally. There are a lot of legal restraints that we're not aware of when we start say, hey, we want to partner with you and want to give you these individuals. Educators say, I have this great person, and man, I'm telling you, every employer I know is like, we will take them. We will take them right now. But then they get there and there's a problem. So what we found is there's some, what I call homeland bureaucracy, and rightly so. I mean, after 9/11, everything got a little stricter, which we understand that. But there's still a lot of good people out there that are here for education and opportunity. So under the H-1B visa, that is actually their work visa, and they fill out an I-29 form. For, I believe it's educators, and if anyone knows and I'm wrong, please, let me know. But there's a plan for STEM-OP, the occupational training, practical training program, which is post-secondary education, and it is a I-983 form. And then with those particular forms, on both forms, somewhere I believe it's on page 4 or 5, there's a small section there that says, if you hire this person who is an internationally trained person, if their employment changes, basically you will notify Homeland Security. And I'm telling you, that scares every legal employer to death. The operational side says, oh, okay, no problem. They're going to know anyway because they're not getting a check. They're not taking out FICA. They're not, taking out Social Security. They're going to know. But legal's like, wait a minute, we have to specifically report this to someone? Hang on, we're not going to do this. So at that point, when we were talking to Texas Workforce Commission, we were like, is there any way that we can go around this or educate our educators and some other agencies on a statutory level that can help us with that? So I'll take a quick moment. Are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask regarding this little particular topic?
We don't have any questions at this time, Ms. Contreras.
Okay. All righty, then we'll move to the next one. Yes, so the next one is, how do we assist these individuals? And I think this is where it gets kind of the rubber meets the road. I think number one, we have to allow employers to be able to hire the internationally trained individuals and do internships for them. The second thing is we have to work with the partnership with our schools and let them know what is going on the employer side, because I don't know if universities know that this is happening. I think they're thinking, oh, they're going to get a job. They hire them. They hear that their students get a job. They're so happy, but they don't know in 2 years they're not working anymore, or they have to take a job that is a little bit less. And I'll give you an example. I have a gentleman named Rokas, and he's Lithuanian. He came into the program. I have several, but he's one in particular that I just talked to last week. And he was waiting on his H-1B visa, which is his work visa. He did his STEM op program, and the school signed off on it, so he was allowed to work for 2 years. When it came up for us to sign off and help him post education, our company didn't want to do it. And instead of him coming in as an intern making 65 or 70,000, and that's what I was paying him, he had to go to a law firm who was willing to sign off on his paperwork making 35,000. And I talked to him last week, and he told me he was in Dallas. I was just checking on him, and he's now received his work visa, but it took him 4.5 years instead of a year. And the job that he's at is only paying him 40,000. So I told him, I said, no, you need to be looking for a job that's going to pay you what you're worth, your education level and everything. And he's like, well, how do I do that? I said, well, call me next week and you and I'll talk through a mentorship plan and trying to get you where you need to be. But I think maybe if we had more education from the university side that said, hey, maybe if you come in and you're doing your STEM op program, while you're doing your STEM op program, I don't know if there's a deadline for timing that says you can't apply for your visa until you're done, or maybe they can apply for it at the same time. So while they're working on their work visa, they're finishing up on their STEM op visa. Not sure about that. But that seems to be the biggest issue and why we're not having internationally trained individuals on an employer side. And there's a little bit here about the work visa and how it works. So it's a good program. And basically it says, basically in a nutshell, we have to be fair and pay everyone what they're worth equally, whether they're immigrant, non-immigrant. The H-1 visa is just another tool that they have to come in and work. But a lot of people, I don't think we know that what our internationally trained individuals have to go through just to attain something like this. It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of time. There's a lot of filing going on. And are they eligible? So that is your H-1B visa that you can get straight off the U.S. Department of Labor. And then there's the STEM op, which is usually for educational side of things. And the form they fill out, like I said before, is an I-983. And I think as educators, we might want to take a look at that and see how we can partner with an agency such as an AEL, because all the internationally trained individuals that come over, majority of the time, they take adult education and literacy or ESL classes. Could we not work with a program through grant money through the state, which we all know there's tons of grant money from the state, to get a program like that to help our universities? And think about the advertisement on that. Not only would the university be able to bring all these foreign students in, but they would also be able to partner with employers that say, hey, we can really get you a job and retain it. And that gets, word of mouth is the best. And that brings so much positive advertisement to the university. Grant money from the state. It also helps programs such as AEL and ESL to really get in there and service the community, which looks wonderful on the websites. So, and when we think about that, we get to the next clause, like who needs to be involved? Everybody. I mean, it just really is everybody, the state of Texas. Granted, and I know everybody worries about the pending backgrounds and the regulatory checks, but that's a given. Everybody's going to get that if you're coming into the country anyway. Partnering with our education system and our universities to let them know, hey, going forward, this is some of the things we need to look at and fine tune that, and partnering with the employers to say, hey, so if A&M came up and said, we want to advertise for all these internationally trained individuals, but we have partnerships with Dollar General, HEB, Walmart, TJ Maxx, all these heavy hitters, those are the places everybody wants to work. And even hospitals, or they could go into being a professor, a teacher, or medical. There's a program somewhere, because doctors can do it, but not everybody knows about that. So we have got to find a way to help our individuals find out about these programs and help them work through several of the programs with the understanding of timelines, infrastructure, and what that looks like downstream past post-secondary education at a university.
And
And
so
then,
far, we have some comments, Ms. Contreras.
okay.
One of the comments is, Cynthia says, several of my students are residents or citizens, but were trained internationally. So this resonates with her. Christopher says, sounds very familiar so far. A lot of our students have H-4 visas, though. And Linda says, for F-1 visas, once granted, it covers the spouse, even if the spouse does not attend school. And that is working 20 hours as a student and 40 hours during school break, just sharing from her own experiences. And so then we do have some questions. I don't know if you take some questions now.
Well, this is pretty much the last slide, just to determine if who can be vetted in the program. Does there need to be fees that go with that for, paperwork or filing that we can get grant money from the state or from the statutory agencies? And then establish a baseline criteria for the STEM op, the visas, to help them. And then if we can get that in front of employers to hire. So we're good for questions or comments now, Miss Liz.
Wonderful. So there are lots of questions. One of the questions that we have here is, if you could speak more to what the internationally trained professional brings to the workplace.
Oh my goodness, I could go on for hours for that. Not that everybody, domestically doesn't bring that, but for some reason with our internationally trained individuals, I don't know if it's their culture or maybe they're more passionate about being over here and learning, because money is very tight. And a lot of times when they come into the U.S., the money is paid by either the government or their family. Like Saudi Arabia, I know Saudi Arabia pays for the education over here in a lot of instances. So they come over with a hunger to learn everything. And they're very open to schedules. They're very open to learning different multitasking. They are very kind and polite, and they're very understanding to know that they are here to learn, and they're willing to do anything to learn, so that downstream they become a productive individual that is helping the workforce. They have just been amazing. The work that my interns did several years ago saved our company millions of dollars, and we still use it today. And I talk to them a couple of times and say, hey, do you have your work visa yet? Do you have your citizenship yet? Because I have a job for you as soon as you get those, because of just the intelligence level they have and the hunger. And I'm going to be honest, they're really not lazy. And not that domestic people are lazy or any of our college students, but what I've seen is the college students that we get that are homegrown, I guess you could say, come in and they all think that they're going to make $100,000 straight out of school. All of them. The last 10 I've interviewed, when I tell them at 65 or 70, they say, you're not going to pay me $100,000? I'm like, no, you don't make $100,000, but it's real close. So I think it's everybody. I think you have to have diversity and inclusion. And I think that's what the internationally trained individuals give us, is a higher level of diversity and inclusion.
Thank you. And then we do have another question as far as some of the participants joining us today are program directors, or maybe they're lead instructors. Some of them are instructors or career navigators, and they serve more of a hands-on approach directly with the student as far as developing a career pathway, and they're just recognizing that they have this educational background. Are there any words of advice that you would give directly to those programs who may not necessarily have a strong hold as far as being able to change their institutional systems, but maybe they can have an impact on the internationally trained professional? Any type of skill sets that you would like for them to focus on, or information that you think is just as critical that they share?
I think when it comes to that, the T-Call where we did the Contents 2.0, I think that's a very helpful website because it breaks down whatever avenue they want to go in, whether it's construction, manufacturing, supply chain and logistics, and it breaks down your knowledge, your skills, and your abilities. So it kind of helps give that navigator or that educator a pathway to steer them, along with if they wanted just to reach out to different employers in the Texas Workforce Commission, they could part with the Texas Workforce Commission and say, hey, I have these internationally trained individuals and I'm developing a career path for them. Give me some resources to go talk to on what they need. But the biggest thing is soft skills. Our employers are noticing that they come out with a lot of technical aptitude, which is very important. So when I get them from an educational level, when I say engineered standards, they know exactly what I'm talking about. If I say, hey, I need production or something like that, they understand what I'm talking about. But it's having those conversations one-on-one with someone when it doesn't go like they think it should go. Maybe it was a difficult day and the training wasn't where the person thought it was going to be. So how does that person have a conversation to say, hey, this is what I saw that you did well, and these are the things I'd like you to improve on. So soft skills are a big thing. And that's probably the biggest thing that we run into as employers are soft skills.
I see. And I wonder if those soft skills are also contributing to the fact that it's understanding American culture and American systems, where the practice of doing something a certain way is common in a native country. And then they come here and then they realize, that doesn't work, or that, there's a misunderstanding. So that's a very good point. We do have some other questions. Oh my gosh, they're all coming in. I do have a comment. Pedro says H-1B1 work visas are limited to a certain number granted per year per country. He thinks it's about 180,000 per year with no more than 10,000 per country. So that's very interesting.
That is interesting.
Linda shares that H-1B visas, the duration of stay is 3 years, extendable to 6 years, after which the visa holder may need to reapply. So really great information.
Yes. Thank you.
Then there is another question that came in. It says, what can AEL programs be doing to network and collaborate with employers? And what do employers need to hear with such limited time that they have?
I think the biggest thing is wherever you are in your region, just reach out to your major employers out there. I was down in the Del Rio area this weekend and I was driving past the Texas Workforce Commission. Of course, they weren't open, but I so wanted to stop in and say, hey, I'm here for you. I'm a resource if you need something. But because
stop by.
Yeah, and I thought, man, this is a little more rural Texas. And I think it's just knowing who's in your community and just taking the time to go by and say, hey, I'm here for you. What can I help you with? What do you need? Adult educators, what are you looking for? And a lot of times those employers will just be like, and just tell you everything that they need and want. And you'll be like, whoa, I didn't know you were going to need all that now. It's very interesting because I got a question earlier that was, why do you still hire people knowing that you're only going to have maybe 1 to 3 years with them? And for me, I even told Dollar General, because I want them to come in and understand what a good culture looks like and the way they should be treated and what they should be looking for and how to be a good servant leader to not only their peers, but to their community. And even if I only get a year or 3 years with them, at least when they leave, they're like, this is kind of the model that I want to look for. If I'm not being treated like this, then this is not the place I want to be. If I'm not learning this type of avenue to make me a better person down the road for who I need to service, then these are the questions I need to ask. So that's another reason that I bring them in, only if it's 1 or 2 years. I mean, it's a blessing for me, and I hope Dollar General is a blessing to them, but I want them to have a good foundation of what something is supposed to look like.
And that is a very good perspective to hear, especially from the employer. And I would say, how many times have we heard at the program level that an employer wants to partner with us? And it's typically the other way around, where a program is just trying to make that connection, trying to establish a partnership. And from what you have shared thus far, as far as they are well aware, they have that technical knowledge, they have that academic expertise that easily translates. And, if we can focus on the English skill sets as well as the soft skills, then that could serve as a better bridge. I do want to make a comment here. This is Pedro sharing. He says H-1B work visas are not a path to U.S. citizenship unless approved by U.S. Department of Labor, only for shortage in some professions or jobs. And he also echoes what Linda had said. H-1B work visas can be renewed for up to 6 years. And so Linda has shared two websites. So thank you,
Oh,
Linda.
wonderful. Thank
And
you.
one of them is on information on H-1B visas. This is from her board in Hawaii because that's where Linda's from. Thank you so much. But sometimes
Yes, thank
the
you.
information shared, even though it's indicative or representative of one community, we can then look for other resources. And she also shared the International Student Way of Life. And so that link is posted at the 12/21 timestamp if you want to go back to the chat. So lots of really great information thus far. And I just want to see if there are any additional questions, especially because we have Ms. Contreras representing not necessarily all employers, but this is such a really unique perspective because I tell you, Ms. Contreras, it's so difficult to get an employer to engage with AEL. We're always trying to make that connection as to what's in it for the employer. And what you have shared today is very helpful as we move forward in trying to engage other employers. What can we say? What can we do? And more importantly, what can we work on in the classroom to ensure that, number one, we're providing this information to our students, especially in the realm of H-1B visas, because as an employer, these are the end product, right? They're students to us. And then once they come to you, they are employee perspectives. And so what can we do to better prepare them? And for one, I can definitely think of including that information to the student, informing them that their ability to work is very short. It's a short period of time. So we do have another question coming in, and it says, what suggestions do you have for AEL programs to help motivate American-born students who need to hear that they need to work on work ethic and have realistic expectations? What would an employer tell them? That's a really good question.
Think if AEL would invite a couple of employers to come speak, and if the employer can get rid of the little, diplomatic and political and be nice and really explain to them what it takes, I think it will resonate with them. I think you have to have a genuineness to really want to be for the individual. And I think a lot of employers, you're right. It's like, what's in it for me? If I do this AEL, what am I going to get out of it? And that's not the way it should be. It should always be, if I do this for my employee, look what the employee is going to get out of it. And they're going to be so much more appreciative that I did this, that it's going to resonate with them. Number one, they're going to tell their family, their friends, everybody in their their 6-point realm of, hey, you might want to go work at Dollar General or TJ Maxx or HEB because this is what they did for me. They really care about me. And then the employer will see the returns. But the employer can't come in and say, what am I going to get out of it on the front end? It always has to be about the individual and helping the educator be able to help deliver those results to get to the end result. So I think that's one thing. And then if you can get someone to come out and speak to a group or a class or something and say, hey, I've got someone here and they're going to tell you why this is important. Integrity is important. I can't teach you that. It's like I can't make you drink the water once you're at the trough. You've got to get up and, want to come to work. And I tell my orientation classes, I can do a lot for you. I can help you with almost anything, but I'm not going to get you up and get you dressed and tell you to come to work. It's not going to be me calling you saying, Mijo, get up out of bed, let's go. They have to want it, and when they hear about what type of life they can have, and it's very genuine, I think they really want that. A lot of people don't know that I was born in Seoul, Korea and came over here, and my mother and I were so poor that we sold vegetables on the side of the road, but someone took time with my mom and it was an AEL. at a church to teach my mother English. So here we are, paying it forward 30 years down the road.
Ah, see, it's interesting because when you're speaking at the very beginning and you're talking about these former employees that you've had and how you're wanting
Mhm.
them to bring them back to your company, it also speaks a lot to who you are and what Dollar General represents because you've maintained these connections with them. And I think that speaks very highly of you and of your company because
Oh, thank
obviously
you.
you have that shared relationship when you say that you want to bring Rocco back and you're like, you're not earning enough money.
I'm like, they're not paying you enough. Come back to me. I'll give you some more money. Come over here.
So we have a comment. This is from Anne Marie. She says, Diana, I think it's important for the students to hear it from the employer and let them hear how competitive the job market is. So I think what you've shared really does speak to that. But I want to go back to the sharing. You've mentioned two things. So one is your upbringing and how your family would sell vegetables on the side of the road. And I think that speaks to the work ethic that some of our immigrants can so
Mhm.
relate to, right? It's that bottom up approach. They come with the American dream. And sometimes those who are domestically born, well, we didn't have to go through that. So we see things differently. We have an education system that it's compulsory, and to others it is not. It's a privilege.
That's interesting because and a lot of Koreans have stores. I'm just going to say that because my mother had one. After my mother saved enough money with my father, of course we went and bought a store. And I had to work in the store forever. And my mom would say, well, I'm going to give you the store. And I'm like, Mom, I don't want the store. I want to take vacation sometime, So there's other attractive things out there that employers can tell, whether they're born here or whether they're born somewhere else. Companies, there are a bunch of good companies out there that offer so much. We're so employer friendly now and employee friendly and education friendly that there is no reason why anybody shouldn't have the job that they really want if they're doing their homework and making sure that they're doing their part. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody, it's not like it was 60 or 70 years ago and you're lucky to have a job. Here we're lucky to have employees, we're lucky to have educators help us with employees, and that's really where we're at. I mean, every conference call that I have now for the last year has been, how do we retain people, how do we get people, how do we attract people, how do we do all of this? And that is every topic on the forefront. It's not
Mhm.
like it was 20 years ago, like what can we do to be better at production or efficiency, which is always understood, but it's how do we get human capital? How do you get people in that are going to be good employees that you want them to stay? And now, you know, kind of in the 80s, they teach them, hey, get a job, work 3 years and then leave. But we're trying to teach them, no, work 10 years and don't leave. Stay with us. I need you,
Yes. Grow in the company, move
grow
up
in the
and
company.
upskill.
Mhm.
You also mentioned another important aspect that maybe you could probably offer a little more insight, and that is you said you have your orientations that you speak to the employees or these potential employees or new recruits. What is it exactly? I know that you go into the technical aspect, but what are some other items that you touch upon during this orientation? Because that might be another a key piece that we could build upon in AEL.
Well, I'm very honest with them. So I tell them, number one, you're human. You're going to make mistakes. And you're human. You're going to do that. But it's whether or not you learn from your mistake. Nowadays, they want the ramp up to be so quick. So they want you to come in, you've got 3 weeks and you're ramped up to 100%. And we don't do that. So I tell them, no, you work on your quality, you work on your integrity, you work on your service, being a good servant leader. And when I go in, I introduce myself. I said, I am one of your servant leaders. I never tell them what I do. They always have to ask me because I forget. They're like, well, what do you do here? And I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. My official title is Senior Director of Distribution and Operations. So everything under 240 acres reports to me, all 900 employees, transportation, everything, logistics.
Wow.
And they're like, oh, but I don't go in saying that because I tell them the only difference between you and me is time and opportunity. Any of you could be sitting here any day doing what I do if you want to do it. and you have to want to do it. But I let them know that they're human, and I expect them to be human, but I do expect them to get up and come to work. And that's the biggest thing. And nowadays, the quality work-life balance is such a big thing. So how do you give a schedule to an employee that gives them the work-life balance? And I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that's one thing that we're successful here at this particular facility, because I do a 4-10 schedule and a 3-12 schedule. So if they want to work the weekends, it's a little longer day, but they got days off during the middle of the week. So when COVID happened, all my parents who had to teach school are now taking the weekend, because now they have to teach school. And all the ones that still want the weekends off, they work a Monday through Thursday 4-10 schedule. So I think you have to adapt to your environment. You have to adapt to what the employees want or what they need.
Wow, but that sounds like you are very considerate as an employer, because just as those examples that you shared, I think I'm going to be shopping at Dollar General more often.
Well, thank you. You'll keep everybody here employed. But I think that's what you have to do. I think employers need to look at what do we do for the employee? How do we have a flexible, adaptable schedule? How do we give them the tools that they need, including ESL or AEL if they want it? What other things can you offer? Because the biggest thing, that may get them in the door. Money may get them in the door, a schedule may get them in the door, but that's not what keeps them. What keeps them is the culture and the development that you're going to give them to make them a better version of themselves. And I think that's what we have to do as, instructors, navigators, educators, is put them on a pathway to make them a better version of themselves down the road, and partnering with companies that do that, and getting a company that says, hey, you know what? I know a great company in San Antonio. You go work for this lady, you're going to get what you need. Is it going to be hard work? Yeah. Is she going to expect a lot of you? Absolutely. Are our standards very high? You better believe it. But I usually get them and they don't want to leave, or they leave and then they come back. So
yes,
that's true. But I think we have to figure out what does the employee really want? What gets them in the door is not what keeps them. Even education, what gets them in the door for education is not what keeps them for education. So we have to be very open to what gets them in the door and what transforms them into wanting to stay and get to the next level.
Absolutely. Well, those are wise words. I do appreciate, Ms. Contreras, that personal insight, the stories that you've shared of your former employees. It just really speaks to the love that you have, that deep appreciation and respect that you have for your employees, that you're wanting the best for them when they're with you, and even when they leave you. That's just speaks very highly of you. And so I'm checking to see if the chat pod, there is a comment, and it says, this is from Cynthia. She says, knowing there are employers like you gives us so much hope for our internationally trained professionals. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And if you know them, send them my way. As soon as we can figure out the visas and the STEM op, how to work that, even if it's for a couple years, I'll take them.
See, isn't that a wonderful thing?
Yes, and yes. I learned so much today about the visa, so that is very interesting. So now when I get someone, I can tell them, hey, this is a work visa. If you're wanting something different in citizenship, you're going to have to apply differently and get approval. So thank you for that. That really helped me today.
Yes, and then Anne Marie is sharing some kudos, because she's saying that Diana Contreras, with the rest of the subject matter experts, worked on the Standards 2.0 project for over 2 years. Wow, what a commitment. And those are the things that you use day in and day out, folks. So now you have a person to the name to why the standards are the way they are. It's because we shared with these fabulous people so that they could provide us with that insight. So I'm so glad. And then we do have another question. Okay. This is from Catherine. She says, what was the name of the law or bill that allows only 1 to 3 years of work?
The H-1B is their work visa. They fill out a it's an I-983, and then the STEM op program is the educational portion where they come in and do their school visa, I believe. And it was extended to 24 months, but it used to be like 17 months or something like that. But it's the STEM op.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm looking to see if there are any other questions. And before we close off for today, Ms. Contreras, I just simply want to thank you for being with us today. Lots of really great information. And I just want to give you the floor once again, if there's any parting words that you'd like to share.
Thank y'all so much for being such a wonderful partner to all of us. I always want to thank T-Call because they always come out and meet the call of whatever we need. And A&M sends me some great people. I've actually got a guy just hired on my payroll, so thank you, A&M, for that. And he's done some wonderful work. But adult educators and ESL, just reach out to the employers and see what they need and how you can help them and how they can help you. If anybody needs a job at Dollar General, hey, dg.com careers, here we are. If anyone needs to come to San Antonio, let me know.
Wow. Well, careful what you ask for, because you might get an overflow.
I had to do my little pitch in there, y'all know, but thank y'all so much for having me on today and taking the time just to listen to me rant and rave about why I need internationally trained individuals with everybody else and why it's important to me. But thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much. We do have the accolades coming in. Thank you so much, Diana. Great job, Diana. Thank you. And I see this information that we needed to hear. Thank you so much. Lots of thank yous. Thank you so much. So thank you so much, Ms. Contreras, for being with us today. Catherine says, awesome presentation. Lisa says, thank you very much. Great information. So lots of really great kudos and accolades. And I know you took time from your busy schedule for being here today and sharing of your personal experiences, as well as that of the Dollar General perspective. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We truly, truly appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be ending our session. I am your host, Liz Moya. Thank you for joining us today at T-Call, and thank you to Anne-Marie and Paula for doing the behind the scenes assistance.
Thank you, ladies.
So we hope everyone has had a great day. Thank you once again, Ms. Contreras, and we want to wish everyone a really great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.